Good afternoon. Welcome to Evolve Through God. My name is Angela Goodman. I am so excited today to talk to our next guest. Her name is Nicole Donnelly. And I know she's so amazing. And I have to tell you guys, this is such a funny story on how we met. So we both went to do our speech training with Heroic Public Speaking in New Jersey. And yes, and we show up there. And on the first day, we all get the opportunity to take a couple of minutes to introduce ourselves. And Nicole went before me. And she mentioned that she lived in Ashburn, Virginia. And I was like, no freaking way that there's someone in this class that lives down the street from me. And I don't know who they are. And so I got up and introduced myself, and I was like, and this other person may have been to my restaurant before in Ashburn, Virginia. And lo and behold, it's one of her favorite places to eat breakfast.
It totally is. It's like my favorite place to take girlfriends. I swear. We have like ongoing, I have a couple girlfriends and we have this ongoing tradition where we meet on Saturdays and that's where we go. Let's go
Oh
have
my gosh.
breakfast at the famous toastery. Because
I
you know what?
love
The
it.
breakfast options there are healthy
They
and
are
yummy.
healthy.
And they're not like no, like IHOP's great and all, but it's like
Yeah.
elevated
It's fresh.
breakfast.
It's fresh. The ingredients
Fresh.
are fresh.
Yeah.
And most everything has like four fresh ingredients, and that's it. Like it's nothing too crazy. But we're not here to talk about the famous toastery. So I don't want to get too far off on a tangent with that. But welcome to the show, Nicole. I'm so excited for people to hear about your walk, about your faith journey, because I know a little bit about the story, but I don't know everything. So welcome to the show.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm delighted to be here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I appreciate it. So I guess we'll go ahead and jump in.
Mm.
So to kind of start, I always ask, I guess, the same question. Like, when did you first find out about God? What did that look like for you?
Ooh, I feel like I've known God since as early as I can remember. So I was raised in a home with two parents who were very, very faithful and spiritual
Mm.
and very active in their church. And so from a very young age, I'll never forget my mom, like my earliest memories of her kneeling down with me and teaching me how to pray every night. She
Mm.
put me to bed. She would always like, that was a very formative memory. She would always put me to bed and we'd say prayers together at bedtime.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, yeah. And both my parents were. My dad was also very religious as well. So it was just like part of my childhood.
Mm-hmm.
I just
Mm-hmm.
knew God. And in my church, we were baptized when we were 8 years old. And I'll never forget when I was baptized. My grandfather was there and he taught me a lesson on faith and the importance of, in our church, when you're baptized, you make a promise that you're going to follow Jesus Christ and you're
Mm-hmm.
going to follow his commandments. And I remember that day, just the joy that I felt at making that promise that I was going to commit to living a life that would honor him.
Do
And
you remember how old you were at that time?
I was
8.
8 years old.
Wow.
I was 8. So yeah, so it was a very big part of my childhood.
Yeah. Sounds like it.
Yeah.
Do you remember any of the prayers as clearly as you remember the act of praying?
Oh, great question. Not really, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just remember prayer being a big part of it and that my mom deeply, deeply believed in God and was very obedient. She was
Mm.
very, very obedient as a person and just very respectful of making sure to show gratitude. So when we would
Love
pray, there
that.
was always like the first part of the prayer was always to share what we were grateful for.
Mm.
Always say all the things that we were grateful for. And without fail, it would be things like, grateful for my health, grateful for my family,
Mhm.
like the day-to-day things. And then the second part of the prayer was always asking for whatever we needed.
Yeah,
So that was always the way my mom taught me to pray. Start with what you're grateful for and then ask for what you need.
I love that.
Yeah.
Love
And it's
that.
just like as I think about it, it's just like so part of my childhood. I don't remember.
Yeah.
It's just like, when you just do things and it just becomes part of who you
Yes.
are.
Yes.
Those are
Yes.
kind of those things. So
Yeah.
yeah. So
I
God was always a very present in my life. Yeah. for sure.
I love that. So at the age of 8, your mom teaches you this practice. And
Mhm.
so is it something that you continue throughout your whole childhood into your teenage years and beyond
Ooh,
that? Or was there a time
no.
where you were tested? Were you tested,
I was
Nicole?
definitely tested. I was definitely tested. So, as I mentioned to you, my dad was a very religious man,
Hmm.
and he was also a very um he was a very magnetic presence. He was very, very charismatic. And I like to say now he would have made a great cult leader.
Oh,
Um,
okay. People would follow
yeah,
him. They would just
people
follow
would
him
follow
randomly.
him. Yeah, he
Okay.
had a beautiful tenor voice. He was a beautiful singer.
Mm.
And so he would sing, and I remember he'd sing at church. And whenever he'd sing, people in the congregation would just be in tears and they'd go up and they
Wow.
would, like, he had this presence about him,
Hmm.
but his presence was also very manipulative, to be very frank.
Mm.
So I
Yeah.
remember um, when I was 13 years old, and I adored my father.
Hmm.
So we had a very complicated relationship, even when I was a child. I loved him, but I also feared him.
Hmm.
It was very, and I was always constantly wanting to get his approval because it was so hard for me to get from him because he was um, a very, I don't know how to
Almost
describe,
a perfectionist kind of personality.
very perfectionist. Yes.
Okay.
Everything had to be just so.
Hmm.
And to give you an idea, like I have a vivid memory of being like, I don't know, 8 or 9 years old. And we were watching back in the 80s when this was, the American beauty pageant was like really big at those times. I don't
Yeah.
remember
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I will never forget us all as a family sitting down, watching the beauty pageant and listening to my dad the whole time as he was commenting and criticizing all of the women in the beauty pageant on how they looked, on what they said, on what their talents were, and why this one was more beautiful than this one. And so, like, that was normalized for me.
Yeah. The
And I look back at
comparison. The
the
comparison.
comparison
Oh boy.
was normalized. And so, as a
Yeah.
child, I always, I just, he was my father. It was all I knew. I wanted to make him happy. I wanted to please him. But there was that dynamic of like, I've got to earn his love. I've got to be good enough. I've got to be pretty enough. I've got to be
Mm-hmm.
spiritual enough, right? Like
Hmm.
all of those things that as a child I didn't fully understand until I got older.
Right. Right.
So anyway, so he was a very manipulative man who I don't think he fully realized how manipulative he was,
Hmm.
kind of like how he was, I guess.
Yeah.
But when I was 13 years old, I'll never forget, he sat me down with my siblings. And at this time, he was a business owner, he was an entrepreneur.
Hmm.
And there was a woman that had just graduated from high school that had become his secretary at his business. And
Okay.
she graduated from high school and immediately took a job working for his business. And she was his only employee. And she became part of our, like, she was our baby. She was my babysitter. She was
Hmm.
my friend. She used to take me to the mall and we go shopping. And I really, really liked her. She was
Yeah.
like a good friend of mine. And she had been working for him for maybe like a year. And she was in my church. So she
Mm.
was like in my youth group. She was five or
So
six,
you at this time are 13-ish,
13.
and she's maybe 19,
She's 19.
maybe. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she's 19. And I really liked her, was looked up to her. Like she was took me around in her car. I was like, oh, I feel so cool.
Yeah.
And so I'll never forget. I remember she went on a family vacation with us. And I remember at the time thinking, this is weird. Why is she going on a family vacation with, like, it didn't feel
Mhm.
right. It felt
Right.
icky.
Right.
And he sat us down one day, me and my siblings, and I don't remember all the details. I just remember it was like this was a serious conversation Dad was having with us.
Hmm.
And he sat us down, and my mom was in the room. And I don't remember if the secretary woman was in the room. I think it was
Hmm.
just my mom.
Hmm.
And he literally sat us down and said, I want you to know that I've received this revelation from God, and he's revealed to me that your mother's going to die, and it's going to happen next month. And like when he first said it to me, I just remember being in shock. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
what?
Like what? Like God's telling you what?
God's telling you mom's gonna die? And so all these questions are going through my head, like, she's
Mhm.
not sick, she's perfectly healthy. Like, this doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
So I was like, what is going on? But he was my father and he was very charismatic. And I had been taught from a young age to trust God and that
Yeah.
God revealed truths to us when we
Mhm.
prayed and we asked for things and he would tell us, he would guide us in our lives, right? And so
Yeah.
here he was guiding my father. And
Oh boy.
so I had learned that, okay,
You don't question it
you don't
because it came
question,
from God.
it came from God. Yeah. So
Oh boy.
it was for a 13-year-old, I'm still a child, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so the initial shock was just like,
And your mother was there for all of this.
she
Do you
believed him.
remember her reaction to any of that? Like when he said that God revealed that your mother's going to die? Like, do you remember her reaction or were you so shocked you don't even remember?
I don't necessarily remember her reaction. I just remember that my mom was a very trusting woman,
Mm,
very impressionable,
hmm.
and she believed him too. She
Okay.
full on believed that she was going to die.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And apparently he even had the day when she was going to die that had been revealed to him. Yeah, it was looking back on it. So he shared this with us, and at first I'm shocked, but then the only way for me to stay safe in the situation, because my father was very manipulative and emotionally abusive, and now spiritually
Clearly.
abusive,
Yeah, clearly.
the only way for me to stay safe was to go along with it, right? Like it wasn't even an option or a consideration in my mind to question, to be like, wait a
Hmm.
second, because you didn't question dad, like he's dad, so the only choice I had to stay safe in that situation was to just go along with it. And it was
Yeah.
terrifying. I was so confused. There was this ick feeling in my stomach that I knew instinctually in my
It
body
was wrong.
was
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah.
I knew that. I felt that. That was a physically felt thing. But then my mind was like, well, this is dad, you know? So I believed him.
Hmm.
I totally believed him. My mom believed him. Like I said, he would have been a great cult leader. Like,
Yeah, well, clearly he
uh,
was. He was a cult leader. It just happened it was only your family he was leading and the secretary. But yeah.
very, very, I can laugh about it now. That has been my
Wow.
way of
I
coping
can't
with it, but it
imagine.
was
Yeah, I can't
really a dark
imagine.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it wasn't just that mom was going to die. The next part of that conversation was, and God has revealed to me that Laura, her name was Laura,
Hmm.
is going to be your new stepmom. And she's
And
been
she's still
chosen.
19 at this point in
Oh,
time.
she's 19. She's been chosen to be your new
And
stepmom.
your dad is how old?
Oh, at this time he must have been 40.
Oh
Yeah,
boy.
40 years
Okay.
old.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And of course the Laura lady was totally in love with my father. And clearly he was in love with her. And this was just his way of making it be okay to
Okay.
him.
Hmm.
Like he was a
Wow.
religious man and he believed in God. And so in order for this whole, what the truth was that
Yeah.
he was having an emotional affair with this 19-year-old woman and likely had groomed her, frankly,
Yeah.
if we look at the situation, uh,
Yeah.
with clear eyes, had completely groomed her. And, you know, my father was very narcissistic. I'm just like, that's the reality. So I have to say it
Mhm.
out loud. He had,
Yeah.
so she, so I don't even know where I was going with that. So
Okay,
yeah,
so yeah,
so
it was about
everyone just
yeah, about
believe.
when you got challenged and with God being. That was where we started this question. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So at that stage when that all happened, I still believed in God. I
Hmm.
still followed along and was very like, because it was the way for me to survive, right? Like
Yeah.
it was how I stayed safe. It could be inconceivable for me to even doubt God, to
Yeah.
even question him, to not follow him, because as a child I had to be safe.
Yeah.
So so I just kind of went along with all of that. And my mom, thankfully she didn't die. She's still alive to this.
Thank goodness.
Yes, she's
Thank
still
goodness.
alive. And she's
Probably because you
very
prayed
well.
for her every night for the next 2 months until that day came and went. Jeez.
It was terrible. It was very much a low.
So I'm
Yeah,
assuming that eventually they separated. I'm assuming.
they did. It happened very
Okay.
abruptly. So when
Okay.
she didn't die, then very quickly the story changed and became, well, your mom doesn't know how to love me. So I'm moving on. And he left very abruptly. It was a very drastic and quick change. Within a period of a month, he had left and moved out of the house. So it
Wow.
happened incredibly fast. And my mom was completely devastated.
I'm
Like,
sure.
to this day, I'll never forget the devastation that and
Yeah.
seeing it. So it
Yeah.
was really something I've still spent a lot of time in therapy working through, to be quite frank.
Did she
But
question at that point in time, like her faith that drove you when you were younger, right?
yeah,
And you spent a lot of time learning about it from her. How did that impact where her faith was at that time? Do you
what's so
know?
interesting? She just clung to God even more.
Did she?
And still to this day, she's incredibly, very, very, my mom is an incredibly positive, optimistic woman. She sees the good and always looks on the bright side. And it's one of the things I really adore
Love
about her.
that. Yeah.
She will never, like, she loves God so deeply and is
Mm.
so committed to him.
And that's why God said this guy is no good, so I'm just going to get rid of him out of your life for you. Like legitimately. Legitimately. And he did it so quickly. I know I'm sure it was horribly painful for her, but
Yeah,
at least she didn't have to endure years and years and years of abuse, at the hand of
agreed.
him, right?
I love that way to look at it. Yeah. And she's
Yeah.
now happily married to a wonderful man who
Oh.
is just so great. So, like, my faith was tested not when surprisingly, my faith wasn't tested. I still believed in God. I still had a very deep relationship with Him. Actually, through that experience, because of what a dark time it was in my life, I actually leaned on Him even more. In fact, that really deepened my, what I call my testimony and
Mm-hmm.
my connection to him and my relationship with him because I had nowhere else where I felt safe or trusted. My mom was devastated. My dad was
Jeez.
not in a great place. So really God was my safe place at that time. And I was the oldest sibling of four kids.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I felt like a lot of responsibility for them to make sure
Yeah.
they were emotionally okay.
Yeah.
Literally, I mean, of course I had dear aunts that were great support to me, but truly what got me through that time, I'll never forget. I would be sobbing on the floor of my bedroom, just crying and asking God to please help me get through this. And he was there for me. Even in the darkest moments, I felt his
Yeah.
love for me. I
Yeah.
knew that he loved me. I knew that he saw me. And I
Oh.
knew that he was there through me for that. So even through that experience, I still always that strangely deepened my faith in him.
Yeah.
Um, but then there were times once I left the house, once I went to college and I was
Mm-hmm.
separated from my father and kind of that trauma bond that you
Mm-hmm.
have
Mm-hmm.
if you're in a relationship like that when there was distance between us then I did go through a period of time in my college years where I really questioned and doubted a lot of everything that I had been taught.
Oh,
And
wow.
I think I needed to go through that.
Mm-hmm.
I needed to almost find my bearings on my own without his
Right.
influence in order for me to have
Was there anything that prompted that for you? I mean, aside just from the distance, was there something else that happened in your life that made you revisit all of those learnings?
I truly think it was the distance. It was
Okay.
the distance from being separated from I don't want to say the propaganda, but my dad's messaging that was
Yeah.
constant in
Yeah.
my life, because I'd see him every day and he was always very vocal. And so that was always very present. And so it really was the physical distance of
Mm-hmm.
being separated and being more with myself
Mm-hmm.
and recognizing oh my gosh, I have my own voice.
Yeah.
I have my own brain. I'm separate from my father. He's not.
Yeah.
And I never, it's weird. I never felt as a child independence
Yeah.
until I left. And then
So
I was
did the
on my
four of
own.
you live with your mom?
We had joint. custody.
Okay. So you
So
were
we
still
split.
with him part of the time.
Yeah, I was still with him part of the time. And to be honest, I was so manipulated, Angela, that I still saw my dad as like this person I was
Bro.
trying to get approval from, that
Oh,
I
dear.
didn't want to lose his love or support. I was,
Yeah.
so I didn't want him not to be in my life when I was a teenager. I wanted to see him. I remember the day he left, I was just devastated when he moved out of the
Mm-hmm.
house
Mm-hmm.
because I had been so manipulated. It was just the trauma bond was like really
Yeah. Yeah.
strong.
Yeah.
So when I went away to college, that's when I really started to like really ask questions. And that was an important part of my relationship with developing my relationship with God. I think it's so
Mm-hmm.
important for us to ask questions and to have doubts, honestly,
Yeah.
to go to him with those and really like ask him, I'm questions. I don't think he wants us to follow him blindly. I
Yeah.
really believe that he wants us to go to him with questions. And when we do, he will answer them. He always has with me and showed
What did
up.
that look like for you at that time in your life? What were the things that you were deeply questioning? Do you remember?
Oh yeah, great question. Hmm. I think I was questioning because I was questioning the idea of revelation.
Hmm.
I was questioning the idea that God would tell me what I needed to do, and could I
Mm.
trust that? Because
Mm-hmm.
clearly my dad had received this revelation, and that was just completely. So I was questioning this idea of like a God directing, providing a
Yeah.
direction for my life. I was like, I'm going to find my own way. I'm going to figure it out on my own. I can't trust that because when I trusted that before, it was a mess and it was
Yeah.
right and it was wrong.
Yeah.
So I had to like relearn that, um, yeah, just had to come to terms with that all over again and rediscover that. And that took me separating. That took like me years of really, truly not actively seeking for God's guidance in my life. That took
Okay.
me like trying to figure out things on my own and
Mm-hmm.
make decisions on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And years like that. And, I remember really feeling very disconnected from God
Yeah.
for many years in my early to mid 20s because I didn't want to be.
Yeah. But
I
I
wanted
think
to
that's
find
so
my own
beautiful
way.
because I think a lot of the people, I know for sure, and I've heard from some people who have listened to the podcast, it seems to be a theme to me that we all in our own way go through that. We go through that distance to your point in order to really determine for ourselves that we aren't the controllers of our life, right? And we have to go through that trying and that trial and error of trying to control our lives to realize that it's really not us and it is God. So I think it's beautiful that you went through that period. And fortunately for you, probably it was in your early 20s. For me, it took me all the way the end of my 30s to get to
Interesting.
that point. But yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah. And I would say what kind of brought me back it was like a slow coming back, if I'm being honest.
Mm-hmm.
Um, But there were a few pivotal moments for me where I felt God's presence in my life. I felt that He really saw me and that He knew me and
Mm-hmm.
that He was looking out for me very clearly. And those moments will always stick with me. There was a moment when I was trying to get pregnant with my oldest daughter, and you mentioned about like it's the difficult moments that really bring out those
Oh
moments.
yeah.
Just like, oh, help! Like, how do I get through this? I need someone to give me strength. Like
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
if it's not good, if you can't fix it for me, at least give me the strength to be able
Mm-hmm.
to bear it. And I had been trying to get pregnant. I had had two miscarriages in a row. And the second miscarriage was awful. It actually happened when I was on a business trip in Seattle. So I was across the country. I remember I was walking on we had a client, Microsoft, and we were
Mm-hmm.
doing a wellness program for them. And I'll never forget, I was just like walking around in the morning and just so excited to be there and everything. And that's when I had a miscarriage. And I was like, I had to
How
go to
far
the
along were
hospital.
you in your pregnancy?
Oh, sheesh. It was very early. I didn't even know I was pregnant.
Okay.
So I found out I was pregnant when I went to the hospital there. And I remember going to the
Wow.
hospital all by myself, and it was the second miscarriage I'd had in 3 or 4 months.
Wow.
And it was awful. It was just an awful experience. Uh, I was alone in this hospital. I didn't know I was
Mhm.
pregnant. I found out when I got there I was pregnant, and I was like, just
Mm.
awful.
Yeah.
And then after that, it was just, a series of really awful situations with my OBGYN. I had to have a DNC, and I was like, I really think there's something wrong here. I think I need infertility treatment, and
Yeah.
took her a while to get. Anyway, so I'm digressing, but like, so I had a really hard time getting pregnant with my oldest child, and I remember I had to go to infertility treatment to get pregnant with her. And I remember was doing what's called an IUI cycle, which if you're a woman, and you've gone through this, you probably know what that is. But
Mm.
when you do that, there's a risk that you could have twins or triplets or
Oh,
quadruplets.
wow. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Or a litter of puppies. No.
Because basically because
Yeah.
they're stimulating your ovaries to produce a whole bunch of eggs. And so
Right.
we'd gone through this whole cycle, and the doctor said, look, we can continue on, but the chances is elevated that you could get pregnant with quadruplets. And she said, it's your choice if you want to move forward with this.
Wow.
And I remember going home that day and just getting on my knees and just like praying to God and saying, I need your help. Let me know if this is something. And I remember going specifically telling him, I believe that I need to move forward with this. Can you let me know if this is the right step for me and for our family?
Yeah.
I will never forget. I stood up. I remember where I was. I was like in the basement of my house.
Hmm.
And I stood up, and I had this overwhelming feeling of just like love and peace wash over me
Mm.
that I can never like. That is like, you cannot refute those kinds of experiences.
No.
They're so
No.
real. Like, and it was so powerful. And for me, whenever I hear or feel God, it's always like a feeling, and there's a voice that's speaking to me
Hmm.
in my head. That's how I experience God.
Hmm. Hmm.
The physically felt feeling and a voice. And so I remember feeling this overwhelming, feeling of just like peace and love and comfort.
Yeah.
And then the voice in my head saying, do this.
Do it.
Yeah. So I did. And now I have a 14-year-old daughter, my beautiful
Oh.
girl. And then the second, very, oh my gosh, I'll never forget. So I had a high risk pregnancy with her because I had this blood clotting condition. And
Hmm.
so I had to take what's called Lovenox shots
Oh,
every
yeah.
my
Been there.
pregnancy.
Been there.
Man,
Been there. Yeah. I had a
Yeah.
ovarian vein thrombosis after the birth of my second daughter. Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Been
So
there.
yeah.
Hmm.
So I remember that was scary because you're at increased risk of having a stillbirth, another miscarriage.
Hmm.
And so I was stressed and anxious that whole pregnancy, and I'd had two miscarriages. So, and my first child, so it was
Yeah.
very stressful. And so she was born, and after she was born, they took, at that time they would take the baby and they would clean them up, and do
Yeah.
all the vitals. And so
Yeah.
I was waiting for her in my room, waiting for them to bring her to me, and it was taking a while. And I was like, what's going on? Why is she not here? And I started to get anxious. And I remember telling my husband, I was like, can you talk to the nurse? What's going on? Why isn't she here yet?
Hmm.
Well, in the meanwhile, my sister-in-law had gone down to the newborn nursery to go see her. And she walked, when you go to the newborn nursery, they have the windows and they have all the
Hmm.
babies in there.
Hmm.
She walked over to the window and she could see my daughter Sophia. It had a name on the thing.
Hmm.
She literally saw her turn blue in the newborn nursery. And the nurses were not paying attention to her. They were with another child.
Oh
So
my
she
God.
banged on the window to get their attention. They saw my daughter Sophia turning blue, came over, closed the curtains. And so my sister-in-law had no idea what was going on. She only knows she'd seen her
Oh,
turn blue. And she knew she couldn't tell me, so she told my husband.
right.
And the nurse comes in and tells us, your daughter's turned blue. We have to take her to the NICU. We don't know what's wrong. We're gonna have to, check her lungs, check her heart. And you can only imagine, like
Oh my gosh. I can't imagine.
I was just like on my knees praying, God, please, like, just let her be okay. Like,
Yeah.
I just wanted her to be okay, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember getting up out of my room and walking down the hallway. I went to I still hadn't seen her. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I saw her after she was born, but,
Mm-hmm.
still
Mm-hmm.
couldn't see her.
Mm-hmm. Of
And I was like, an anxious, nervous wreck. And I'm walking down the
course. Of
hallway.
course.
I'm like, oh my gosh, is she going to be okay? Just so worried, just like praying for her in my head, just please let her be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I will never forget to my dying day, like stopped in my tracks with my hand against the wall, just this overwhelming feeling
A peace.
of peace
Mm-hmm.
and love and comfort and a voice saying, she's going to be okay. And I couldn't deny it, like it was so real.
Yeah.
Those moments are why, like, anytime I've gone through like anything that would test my faith or cause me to doubt, like, I can never forget those moments where he's like, I know
Yeah.
God was
He's
telling me
there. Yeah.
he was there and he heard me and he knew what I needed. Like, I'm the type of person, because I'm so anxious, I tend to be so anxious that
Mm.
sometimes God has to just knock me on the head.
Ah!
It's like, it's
Oh,
okay, I'm here. Like for other people, maybe who aren't as anxious, they'd speak a little bit differently to him. He would speak differently to them than he would to me. But to me, he knows that I need that assurance because
yeah.
of how I'm wired. And he
Yeah.
sees that. And I see that he sees that.
Yeah.
So that was really powerful. And now my daughter, like, she's beautiful, healthy 14-year-old daughter. Like,
Mm.
it was
Mm.
just beautiful. So I've learned to trust that.
Yeah.
When he speaks to me, I know now I can trust that voice. I can trust him
Yeah.
and that he's going to see me and that that he's going to help me through it, whatever it might be.
Whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So she's 14 now. So
Yeah.
how old were you after when you had her?
It's 28.
28. Okay. So then
Hmm.
of course obviously you have that happen. You have the
Yeah.
other instance happen getting pregnant and keeping
Hmm.
her. Um, so after she's born, what does your practice look like now, Nicole? What do you do to stay in relationship with God? Because you obviously, right, you were in relationship with God as a small child on a very consistent basis, and then you said in your early 20s you kind of went away from
Yeah.
that a little bit. So now what does that relationship look like for you? What is your practice to stay in relationship
Hmm.
with God?
Well, thankfully for my mom, I pray every day. If I'm
Mhm.
not, like, and sometimes it may not be like on my knees, but just like always having a prayer in my heart.
Mhm.
Like, so that's something very intentionally that I do. And I also find for me
So
being
you have a
outside,
prayer in your heart every day. Like, is it something different every day, or is it the same
no,
idea every day? What is the
I
prayer in
would
your
say it
heart every
depends on
day?
the day,
Okay.
what I might be like in need of, but it's a prayer of gratitude for sure.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
just gratitude for the life that I have, a prayer of just like, how can I honor you? Like, I am here to do what you want me to do. Like, I believe in the gifts that he's given me and I want to be able to use them. So it's always like, God, how can you help me use these gifts? I'm
Yeah.
here in service. And just like always having that in my mind, like, there's a purpose for my life here. Like,
Yeah.
I don't believe that
Oh
we're
yeah.
just, you know, I believe we have a purpose. I believe that after we live here, we will live again, and that
Mhm.
there's more to to us and our existence and our intelligence than what's here. And so it's just like,
Mhm.
what are you preparing me for? What do I need to learn? How can I make the most of this? So it's like always a prayer in my heart of just like, what do you need to teach me?
Yeah.
You know? And then I love to be outside. I find when I go outside,
Mhm.
I feel so connected to God. Like
Mhm.
it's just the place where I can feel how much he loves me because of what he's created for me. Like this
Mhm.
earth is created for all of us, and it's so beautiful and so glorious. And there's so much we can learn from it if we just pay attention. Like
Yeah.
I find in those moments when I'm outside and I pay attention and I'm present in the moments where I'm just listening to the birds sing
Mhm.
or watching a sunset, like those to me are beautiful gifts from God. Like he created this world because he loves us so much and he wants us to enjoy and see the
Yeah.
beauty of it, but also learn from it. Like I remember walking in the middle of winter a couple months ago and I was really anxious it was early morning. It was 7 a.m. and it was a really cold day. And I was just like in my thoughts, just really worried about, sheesh, I don't remember what I was worried, just really
Mm-hmm.
anxious looking
Mm-hmm.
down. And I remember hearing the birds sing. And I remember looking up and I was just like, I just love hearing birds sing, first of all. Like it's just
Mm-hmm.
anytime I hear it, it's just
Mm-hmm.
instantly gives me peace. And I think there's like scientific research about this. Like it
I'm
literally
with you.
calms
I'm
your
with you
nervous system.
100%. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I like hear the birds sing. I look up and they're singing to each other and the sun is rising. And I can see the sun rising in front of me. And then I look down and the grass is covered in like frost that looks like these sparkling diamonds. Like the sun is like hitting
Mm.
the
Did
grass.
you take a picture?
Oh, I did not. I was so one of those moments where it was just like, if you blink, you would miss it.
Yeah.
That's the like, and I
Yeah.
remember it just like stopped me in my tracks. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is glory, like this is
Mm-hmm.
glorious. And
Mm-hmm.
if I would have kept my head down and kept walking, I would have missed it, you
Yeah.
know? And I remember looking at it and it was just like this beautiful, you'd think, and every day it's like grass with frost, right? But it wasn't. It was so much more than that. Like it was just a
Yeah, and the
reminder.
birds singing around here when it's that cold outside is not normal either. I mean, we have a lot of birds. We do have a lot of birds, and they're very loud and noisy, but usually in the dead of winter when it's really cold, they're not out first thing in the morning singing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like they were telling me to look up,
Mm-hmm.
like look up and
Yeah. God
see.
was like, girl, look at this. Look at how beautiful this is. Don't be in your head.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And I think that's what helps me when I get outside is it's the whole being present in the moment. And I think those are the moments when we're really present and in the moment and grounded that
Yeah.
we can feel that connection to him so much more strongly. For someone like me who's in my head a lot, that's what I need. So those are the
Yeah.
two things I feel like I practice regularly that really help me stay connected to him and stay grounded.
Yeah.
And then I'm pretty involved in my youth group as a youth
Mm-hmm.
group leader. So
Mm-hmm.
that really helps me just, um, I don't know. It's not always easy, I'll be honest. Like there's some
Yeah.
nights I was like, oh, I don't want to go.
What
You
church
know,
do you go to?
I go to the church on, if you're in Ashburn, it's the
Yeah.
Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It's right on
Okay.
Claiborne and Waxpool, right
Okay.
on the corner
Yep.
there.
I know where that is.
Yeah. And so I think like there's sometimes where I'm just like, oh, it's been a long day. I don't want to go. But then whenever I go and I get there, I just find so much joy in the girls.
Yeah.
You know, they keep me young.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that helps me, I think, feel like I'm giving back to him.
I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. Well, we are at a good point and a good segue for
Mhm.
me to ask the questions. I can't believe we've been
Yeah.
on here almost an hour already. Um,
Wow.
all right. So, question number one, you kind of just alluded to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway in case there's more you want to add. What have you read or absorbed, like listened to, seen, whatever that allows you to grow your relationship with God? And obviously, you literally just said that about nature, but is there anything else that you can think
Yeah.
of that would be good for our listeners to
Yeah.
hear?
Mary Oliver is a beautiful poet, and
Mm-hmm.
I love her poetry because her poetry is all like it's about nature,
Mm-hmm.
but it's about nature and the divine. So every time I read her poetry, like she has a beautiful book called Devotions that I love to
Okay.
read. And sometimes in the morning I'll just read a poem. And she's so beautifully is able to describe the simple and transformative power of nature
Mm-hmm.
and the connection to God that I just love. So I love her poetry. She has so many beautiful poems. One of them is called The Journey that I just love, which is a journey about finding your voice.
Mm.
And she writes poems about loons and about, like these simplest little things
I
that you
love
would
it.
think. And it just reminds me, it's just a reminder. I think God is constantly trying to, if we listen and for me, I find I have to be in a quiet, still place to be able to really hear
Mm-hmm.
him.
Mm-hmm.
If we really listen, that's what he's teaching us is it's like it's in the small, simple things that we can find the joy.
Yeah, I agree.
So I would
That's
say, yeah, if so, Mary Oliver is
Mary
really,
Oliver. Okay,
mhm.
awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So this second question we've actually already talked about a little bit too. So when it's the question is, when do you know when you've got full connection with the spirit? But you've already kind of talked about that you get this sense of peace and this sort of physical manifestation. Is there anything else that happens to you when you're in full connection? You said you get a little voice and then you get the
Mhm.
feeling of peace. Is there anything else that you notice physically? Some people have a hard time like tying in, oh, that's what that is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 No, physically, I would just say it's like a fullness I feel in my heart. It's like my heart feels so full. It's like a physical enlarging, I would say, of my heart.
Mm,
And like my breathing is deeper in my diaphragm. Like
mm,
there's, like I think sometimes we have a tendency to breathe up here, but like I
yeah.
feel like I can breathe more deeply. And
Yeah.
then again, it's the voice I like can hear a voice that's not mine. And I'm not crazy, I promise.
Yeah.
Like it's a
Yeah.
very
Yeah. No, no, you're not the first one. Trust me, you're not the first
and
one to
it's a
say, I
very
hear it.
clear
I hear it.
voice.
Yeah.
And it's a voice that sometimes challenges me, but in a beautiful, loving way.
Yeah.
It's not like you're doing wrong. It's like, Nicole, pay attention to this in the
Yeah.
most beautiful, loving way. So I would say those things. And then there's a clarity that comes. I always have clarity on exactly, because usually I'll be confused about something
Hmm.
and I'll have an experience where I can feel him guiding me. And then after that, it's just clarity. This is what I need to do. And it's always very much aligned and in congruence with what my own heart wants. So
Mm.
it's not just, God, tell me what you want me to do.
Yeah.
It's not that at all. It's God knowing me.
Mm.
He knows me. He knows me and he's honoring me and
Yeah.
what I want and what my heart is telling me that I need. And he sees that and he says, this is you. This is the best expression of you and what you need to be doing. I see that in you. And I want you to experience that because that's what you're meant to give to the world. I see that. I want you to see it. So I'm going to
Mm.
help you,
Mm-hmm.
So and I think as a child,
Yeah.
this is the direction you need to go because this is you. And I want to,
Mm-hmm.
I want to honor you just as much as you're honoring me.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Love
it's this
that.
beautiful, yeah. Anyway,
Yeah. I love that. I love that.
yeah.
All right. So moving into the last question. And you can choose which time because this question is about helping our listeners who might be going through something and giving kind of advice but that you would have given yourself. So if you were helping yourself or talking yourself through what you experienced when you were 13 or what you experienced when you fell away a little bit from your relationship with God when you were 20, looking back at that, what words of advice would you give to yourself to help you through those situations?
Oh, I would say, first of all, give yourself grace
Mm,
that just be patient with yourself, that God
mm,
is always there. He's always there. He's never going to leave.
mm,
He'll never leave you. He will always love you no matter what happens. So give yourself some grace and
mm-hmm.
know that he's always there and that he loves you. And I think I would say trust yourself,
Mm,
find your way back, or um to know when something doesn't feel right, pay attention to that.
yeah,
Like when I was 13, it didn't feel right in my body,
right.
you know? So pay attention to that feeling, that ick feeling, and also pay attention to the feelings and remember the times
Mm,
he has spoken to you and you have felt very clearly, physically felt experiences. Hold on to those memories because that will help you
get through.
get through it,
Yeah, yeah,
Being able to know the difference, I think, is key.
yeah. I love that. I love that. Well, Nicole, do you have anything else you would like to share before we wrap up today?
Thank you for this lovely conversation. Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you
yeah,
for coming on and
yeah.
sharing your heart and your soul and your story. You are such a light, and since there's many people who are going to listen to this that never get the opportunity to meet you in person, Nicole is one of the brightest lights you will meet. She always has an amazing smile. It's true. You always
Thank
have an amazing smile and such a kind presence about you. And
you.
I've been blessed to be able to experience that in person. And I know our listeners may not get to do that, but she's one of the sweetest people I've ever met. So
Oh, that's so kind. I feel the same way about you, Angela.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. And we
Two
live right
Ashburn
down the street from
sisters.
each other. We just need to
Yeah,
meet in the middle and walk nature together.
we will. We will do it. We will
We
do
will
it. Yeah,
do
I've
it.
been so honored to know you. I'm excited for our friendship and that we were
Yeah.
able to connect through HBS, and I'm excited for us to continue. It's
Yeah, me
great.
too.
Yeah.
Me too. Well, Nicole, thank you so much for coming on today. Thank you all for listening to Evolve Through God and listening to Nicole's journey, and we will see you next episode.